the State of Black America 2010. Let's take a look at some of the snapshots from the new study by the National Urban League on the economy. The unemployment rate for white Americans stood at 8.8% last month, compared to more than 15% for African Americans and more than 12% for Latinos. Look at median household income in 2008, more than $55,000 a year for whites, more than $34,000 a year for blacks, more than $37,000 a year for Latinos. All right, this is pretty disturbing. I don't think we should be very surprised, Donna, by this, but it's still disturbing. You see these discrepancies in the year 2010.
What's even more disturbing is that we don't have the policy prescription that can help to reduce the level of unemployment across the country for blacks or whites, Latinos. And, you know, just recently there was a debate on the Senate floor where the senators were finally putting forward some good ideas about job creation in small businesses, and one senator, of course, said, no way we're going to put money for youth unemployment. Black youth unemployment is almost approaching 50%. That's another concern. If we're worried about the future, we're worried about the next generation, then we have to put some money behind some of these programs.
Look at these numbers, Roland. As far as Americans without health insurance, whites 10.8%, blacks 19.1%, Hispanics 30.7%. Are you surprised by those numbers?
Not surprised, because you have to tie insurance or lack of health insurance to lack of jobs. I was in D.C. today speaking to the Department of Transportation's Small Business Summit. $46 billion spent on the stimulus program. 1.7% went to Latino businesses, 1.1% went to African-American businesses. And so I challenged them on that notion, but not just the DOT, but also unions, huge Democratic supporters. But African-Americans and Hispanics are routinely shut out of those kinds of jobs. And so here you have the Department of Transportation trying to push transportation dollars to the states. Well, when these people have the contracts, who doesn't get hired? And these are jobs making between $50,000 and $70,000, providing benefits, sending kids to school. And so I challenge these same unions who want black and Hispanic votes. How dare you lock people out of those particular jobs? So it goes beyond government. It also is private industry plays a critical role in these numbers.
And Donna, turn around. Take a look at these numbers, Roland. You can see them behind you over there. 25-year-olds with bachelor degrees, 25-plus-year-olds, 32.6% among whites, 19.6% among blacks, 13.3% among Hispanics. This in the new National Urban League State of Black America survey that came out today. And what's worrisome is that this gap still very much exists.
And that's why the Urban League for 100 years has been championing these issues and trying to close the economic gap, the housing gap, the wealth gap. There's so many gaps. And Roland has been a strong advocate these last couple of weeks in terms of pushing student aid and the Pell Grant funding. That's important. If we're going to close these gaps, we need more federal assistance. But I also want to echo what Roland said about the private sector. We know that the majority of the jobs that have been created over the last 3 years, they come from the private sector. We also need the private sector to do more as well.
Is the president doing enough right now?
Well, look, I think the president can do more. I believe
what do you want him to do?
I believe, well, first and foremost, I would like for the president to sit here and call his cabinet secretaries together and say, look, we want a fair share amount of dollars going to all communities in this country. And I want the president and his secretaries to lean on these states and say, we're not going to send you billions of dollars for you to sit here and ignore disadvantaged businesses, for you not to provide contracts. They need to step up as well, because you can't have politicians talk about high crime rate, talk about having to build more prisons, talking about all of these negative things in our society, but then turn around and say, well, folks can't get jobs. And so they have to say, look, if you don't even do this here, we'll sit here and cut the money off. Do what Atlanta Mayor Maynard Jackson did when he said, I understand the power of political power and I combine it with economic power. Having a black president is one thing, but having African Americans with economic equality is a whole different issue.
Is there a frustration in the African American community, especially the Congressional Black Caucus? We're getting conflicting reports, as you know, Donna.
Well, they are advocating for more change, more resources, apprenticeship. I mentioned job programs for young people. But at the end of the day, African American institutions will also have to step up to fill in some of this gap, to provide services like the Urban League is providing all across the country.
Absolutely.